All right. So I would actually love to start with something that I heard you say, and correct me if it's not true, but I
Okay.
heard you say that when you first got approached to play twins in you thought Maddie would be the easier character to play. So I'm curious what it was about the character on the page that made you feel that way. And then, like, as you went into breaking down the characters, breaking down the story, why and how that shifted.
I only got like one script, I think, to look at. It was the second episode, I believe. And I thought, oh well, she's like the sillier, lighter, fluffier, more go with the flow type of woman. And they just hinted, like Justin Lowe, the showrunner, one of the showrunners, hinted that she was gonna have a lot of depth and have a lot to do with the plot. But when you're first reading it, you're like, okay, I see what's happening here. Like, I know who Reagan is, I know who Maddie is. And obviously, she's like the lighter, funnier twin. But as the scripts came in and as the storyline progressed, I was very overjoyed to see what a challenging woman she was, and also so complex and so right in my wheelhouse of what I want to play, which is somebody on the page you think is one thing.
Mhm.
And then the deeper you dive, you realize, oh God, she's not at all what I thought. And she's so much more. And she's making discoveries about herself and how strong she can be in the moment. So, yeah, definitely. They kind of tricked me with that one.
What was the first moment you felt like that reading her? Was it something that you actually were then asked to perform, or was it more of like, oh, when we found out about the affair?
I think it was actually during the monologue that I have when I'm in the cage and I'm talking about how I've already survived being kidnapped before. And you get to see that first of all, I don't even know if that's real.
Okay.
But yeah, so I made the choice that it was. I
Okay.
didn't make the choice that it was, but that was something that came down to like 2 weeks before the shoot. I was going back and forth whether she was that smart to be manipulating that. But I thought in the world of you and the characters that we're dealing with and these very affluent socialite people, that perhaps this is something that is true. And to me, that felt like the stronger choice, to have her be actually someone who's gone through something similar to this. And then to see her cave in the next scene. You know what I mean? I think it's something, I think that she was bluffing about being able to handle herself so much, but I do think that that story was actually true. She might have like stretched a little bit of the truth here and there,
Sure.
but at the end of the day, I think it was something that she went through.
I would love to talk about the scene in the cage with you effectively there twice. Like, obviously, we know you have a body double and that you're shooting things in different parts. But there was one moment where it's going to come out sounding strange, but you move your own head. Like,
Yeah.
right. And we see like you kind of shift your head into a different position, which I felt it was like a comfort position. And it made me start thinking of like the level of comfort for these characters in any environment and what they might have to go through to put themselves in a position where they feel like they can be in charge.
Uh-huh.
They're clearly not holding all of the physical power. I don't really know how much that came up for that particular scene, but that's where I started to think about it. So I wanted to ask that to you in terms of, especially when once Maddie starts impersonating Reagan, at what point did you feel like there are certain little ticks or certain little things that you felt you had to do to show her getting more or less comfortable with the new situation?
And, you know, it's very interesting to begin with, just to play two very different people, and not try to overdo it also, which is something that I worked really hard on to keep it subtle, but also I wanted people to know as soon as I came on camera who was there.
Right.
And so as Maddie was impersonating Reagan, there's the boardroom scene, where I'm coming in and I remember feeling the nerves, even as Anna saying, and sometimes that bleeds into me, like Maddie's nerves bleed
Yeah.
into Anna's nerves. And I'm like, I just use it because I'm like, is Maddie nervous also? Yes, of course she is. Like, can she pull this off? And I remember looking at Charlotte Ritchie.
Hmm.
And when I say, you look tired, Kate, and it's like, that's when Maddie slipped into Reagan in a very comfortable way. But yet, Maddie likes Kate, right? So there was just a feeling that I had as Maddie having a tiny twinge of guilt.
Okay, yeah.
Saying that line, but knowing that she has to act like that in order to survive this moment and not be found out and get what she wants. And I think that if you just have that thought when I'm looking at the other actor of, I'm so sorry I have to say this, yet I have to say it. Hopefully it will all be there, even in that one line. So it was just a real dance that I had to do every scene as to like how far I should go. You know, is Maddie being really uncomfortable now playing Reagan? Like, is this a moment where she's like obviously in the bathroom when I'm talking to myself in the mirror, a very uncomfortable scene for Maddie to be dealing with. So it was just so exciting to get scenes that I could play with the level of comfort and explore being really uncomfortable and then explore being really proud of myself for nailing the moment. You know what I mean? It just kept me very present as I was on set dealing with the other actors, which was super exciting.
Before we get to the bathroom scene, I want to go back to you talking about how Maddie likes Kate, because when I talked to the showrunners, they kept saying both Reagan and Maddie are antagonistic from the beginning. And the thing that I found interesting about that was, to me, it was really like there's an antagonism towards Joe, and then there's an antagonism towards Kate. And like they're different for each sister. I guess how much more Maddie did care about Kate, or was that something that you felt like you needed to infuse to separate them a little bit more?
I think that's what I found while playing both of them, that Maddie is coming from a place of love. And when discovering these twins, it's more of a feeling for me. So I would close my eyes and I would feel like what Reagan would feel like, and how shut off her soul is, and how cold she is, and how calculating she is. Also, kind of how funny she is. I find Reagan very funny personally, and like the things that she says, you're like, oh my god, like I would never say that, which is why it was so fun to play. But yeah, I just felt like no matter what, Maddie's coming from a place of love and self-doubt, and she has no self-esteem. And I don't think, I mean, maybe the showrunners thought that they were both antagonists for the storyline or for Kate, but I never played. Maddie didn't really care that much. Like she was like just happy to be there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just kind of going through life and happy to be at the table, but like always feeling like she was in competition with her sister and in competition with this family. But I felt like Reagan was more of Maddie's not villain, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our adversary, more or less. Yeah.
And I will say, I mean, I think also when they were speaking about Maddie as an antagonist, I do think they were pressing more about Joe, because like suddenly here's something who is a good person, but he probably has to kill her. And so it's really interesting decision that they made to not do that, which
I didn't know I wasn't going to die. And I don't think
you died 1 out of 2 times. That's like,
oh, that's true. That's enough, right?
I mean, that's pretty good for the show, honestly.
Yeah, the odds were, 50-50.
Yeah. Going back to the question about comfort, I would also pose it in terms of the self-esteem and in terms of the self-confidence. Like, what point do you feel like she has to turn a corner? She has to say, I can do this, even if it falls apart a scene later.
When the stakes are so incredibly high and you are told by a murderer that you have a choice, you both will die, or you have to kill your sister. I mean, just to wrap my head around that, when I read the script, I was like, oh God, how am I going to do this?
Right.
How am I going to ground this? But that's what we're watching it for, right? It's entertainment also. And you just have to kind of like accept it and go with it, that you're not in the real world, but you're going to ground these crazy heightened circumstances.
Sure, but I also think it speaks to like a survival instinct, because I think some characters would just say, kill us both. I can't do this.
No, I mean, Maddie hates Reagan.
Fair.
Yeah. And she has been tormented by her for years. And she has, I mean, if your torturer was sitting in front of you, belittling you and degrading you and gaslighting you, and you've been in a cage for a week, not knowing if you're going to get out, and you have the opportunity to end this cycle. It's a thought. I think in the moment she makes this decision because she doesn't feel like she's being as bad as her. I don't think that Maddie is equipped. I mean, we see her get smarter throughout, but I don't think she's that equipped to realize the consequences really of what's about to happen. I mean, I think she's prone to extremes. I think that she is living in the moment. She's very present. And obviously we see her completely unravel after her decision, because at the end of the day, she does feel more guilt. Right. And she does have a bigger heart. I do think that Reagan could have killed Maddie and just lived on and not even like batted an eyelash at it. But Maddie thought she could handle it. And that is the true testament to like the through line and like the who this person really is that she's not as bad.
Right.
Couldn't handle it. And that's why I found her so tragic to play, because she's like, she took a chance and she like completely like succumbed to the guilt, which is so Shakespearean of them to write, by the way. Like, I just was so excited to play those crazy scenes where I got to lose my mind.
I'm assuming you're talking about the bathroom scene, because there were other ones where the guilt was coming out, but that's, I feel like it starts so unhinged in the way of like, we all know this can't work, but she seems like so determined like to make it work, and then she breaks. Break that down in terms of shooting it. I'm assuming you shot it in order. Like, did you play Maddie first? Did you play Reagan first? Did you actually just do it literally linearly where you were switching in the moment in the scene? How did that all work?
Great questions. We did multiple versions of what you just said. Okay. So when we first shot it, we shot it as like a play. So I was going back and forth between Maddie and Reagan, and Maddie playing Reagan. And it was just, and we did that for probably like a couple hours. And then we would go, okay, we're only going to do Maddie now. And so we would focus on that. And then we'd switch to Reagan. And then there was another version where I was actually playing Ghost Reagan. And that one actually got taken out of the scene because I think that it made it a little too many voices. That day on set, I played Maddie playing Reagan, and then I played Ghost Reagan talking to Maddie. Right. It was really like mind-boggling. But yeah, no, it was really fascinating of a day. And also my double was there, and she's like matching my hand movements on certain scenes because the camera comes through the mirror. At one point, because we did so many takes, and I always like to find new things during the takes, that by the end of the like 12-hour day, I was losing it.
Yeah.
I was losing it. And that's why I actually was so grateful to get to the part where Kate would come in. And I was literally weeping because I was like, I can't believe the director had made me do so many takes. And she really pushed me in this amazing way. So by the end of that day, I was just like, can Charlotte come in here and can I do like a normal scene? Because I lost my mind.
That normal scene isn't any less emotionally taxing.
Not at all. It's probably more emotionally taxing, but I was just thankful to be playing one person having a nervous breakdown than playing multiple people at a time. But it was really like watching myself do the scene, like picking up the I don't know. It like I go back to it and like my brain short circuits because I don't know how like that happened. So
when you're doing it like that and you are doing it like a play going back and forth, how different is what you have to do to get into each character from a normal day on set when you're like, I'm Reagan now, then I'm breaking, then I'm Maddie, then I'm Maddie. Like I'm assuming more time in between to do whatever you need to do. So
yes.
did you have to develop anything to snap in and out quicker?
100%. I mean, I have like my rituals just when I play one character. You know,
Sure.
I'm very, very much into like finding music and finding things that ground me. And I don't know, maybe you've like read about this in some
Is that
magazines.
between takes though, or is that like just something you do as you're building the character?
Oh no, when I go up to my room or my trailer in between takes, I like go focus and put on the music.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Or I do something like that. It just keeps me present and grounded. And I got these two crystals that represented Maddie and Reagan, and those were something that I would like carry around with me. It was also very helpful for hair and makeup. And to sit through that process and to get stripped down, and the way they did my makeup differently for each character, and my hair and the wardrobe. And I definitely became way more confident walking onto set as Reagan. Like I just felt like, okay, like we got this, honey. Like let's go. I got on my lines. I was like sharp. I was ready and rocking and rolling. And then as soon as I put on Maddie's wardrobe and her hair was more curly and there's more lashes and I was trying to appeal to the male gaze a bit more, I got really self-conscious. And so it was just fascinating to see myself deal with these things with just talking to the other actors while we weren't even rolling. Like I kind of wanted to vanish into thin air when I was wearing Maddie's clothes. And I think that goes back to your first question, is why was it harder to play Maddie? I just felt like she was like, and like at the dinner party scene, like trying a bit too hard to impress. And I hate doing that. And so when I'm playing a person like that, I just was like, I just kind of want to like go sit in the corner and like not talk to anybody. And I feel kind of like silly and like, don't look at me. And then as Reagan, I was like holding court in the middle, like making jokes. Can I go get everybody a Diet Coke or whatever? You know what I mean? And it was just, at first I didn't think I realized that I was doing that. And then some of the other actors pointed out, they're like, you're like a different person when you walk onto set as Reagan and then as Maddie. Like you completely, your body language shifts, your breath changes. And then as I was playing them, I started to utilize those feelings for my own good. I didn't go in consciously saying I'm going to like do those things. Right. It just sort of started to happen naturally.
It's interesting though, because to hear you talk about that, like it's like the Maddie of it almost sounds a little bit more people pleasing in the way you just described it, which I don't think is a great trait personally. Like, I have my own issues with that, but I'm curious then, like when you're walking away and you're like leaving these characters behind, if you feel like you have to like actively push stuff like that aside because you lived with Maddie longer than you lived with Reagan.
Yeah, there's always a bit of a character that stays with me forever. Honestly, like I absolutely love playing everyone that I've gotten to play, even if they're hated or insane or, you know, whatever it may be.
Right.
But yeah, there were days in the cage, especially because those are incredibly difficult scenes to be doing. Also because you just have cameras on you from all angles. I can't really hear Penn, you know what I mean? And my tendency was wanting to speak louder through the cage but I'm mic'd, so I can't do that. It's like a whole balance. But there were days where I'm sitting there and there's just like a production team like surrounding me, staring at me, and I'm broken down and I'm like no makeup on and I look probably really horrible. The lighting is just bad. You know what I mean? You can't look great in there. And I'm also playing that I'm diabetic. So I'm feeling ill and then I've just killed my sister, you know, all of these things. There were times where I definitely would get home and be like, okay, I gotta like shake this off, you know, and I would find myself like, we shot in New York City, which is a place that I love shooting. And I would kind of like walk for like an hour and just kind of like get back into my body because it was really, it's a different thing when you're sitting in a cage set. And I talked to other actresses that had been in there, like when we were talking on set, and they were like, be careful. It can mess with your brain a little bit on that set. But I will say that Penn was really great and really warm and really lovely. So he definitely didn't make me feel like I was like under the microscope like I felt like I was. He just felt like a great scene partner. So it was helpful.
I am curious if when you were learning about the twist about Maddie killing Reagan, if there was a part of your brain that ever said, what if it was the opposite? What if Reagan was the one that killed Maddie? What would that have meant for what I would have done this season?
Yes. So when I got the script and I saw that the murder happened off camera, I actually, first thing I said was, is it really Maddie that kills Reagan? Because I need to know.
Right.
Yes. And they said that Netflix actually didn't want the murder to happen on camera in case they wanted to switch it up. Like, that's what I heard.
But you're making choices.
And I'm like, well, I'm making major, major, major choices here. So I need to know. If nobody else knows, I need to know. But it was a bit of a conversation that happened where I was like, please don't do this to me.
Right.
Because like I need to know if I'm Reagan playing Maddie playing Reagan. I mean, that would like explode my brain, but I will welcome the choice if you really want that, but please just tell me. And then finally they were like, no, we're not going to do that to you. So I was like, okay, thank God. But the thought definitely crossed my mind because they thought about it too.
When we look at, you're talking about hair and makeup before, when we look at like the transformation of Maddie playing Reagan, you were talking about how you felt transformed getting into those things. What was important then when you're doing the double layer of like how much Maddie can still be there in the physical? Because you don't want to tip off to the people in her life, but at the same time, she is not maybe going to do everything exactly perfectly, like perfect eyeliner the way Reagan did, or perfect like slick back hair. Maybe there's a strand of hair. You know what I mean? Like how did you navigate with the team?
I wanted to make sure that Maddie had a little more fluffier eyelashes. And Reagan had very short, like trimmed ones. And I wanted to make sure that Maddie playing Reagan was still a little more flirty underneath it all, like baby bit. Like she couldn't quite get it totally right. And even with the wardrobe, even like her suit choices that she wore as Reagan, there was always something slightly more feminine to that. Like when she pulled her hair back, I had braids in it instead. Like there was always a little Maddie in the Reagan of it all, but not enough to like tip somebody off. And I also just feel like the way Maddie stood, it wasn't as it was with a faux confidence. Always. There was always a moment where I could deflate. Like I felt like when I was holding myself, I was like at any moment I could deflate. So I was just like holding a little stiffer in a way and not as relaxed, in my body as Reagan was for sure. But yeah, those were the main things that we did, that we always added a little more touch of femininity to the Maddie playing Reagan than just like Reagan was so like sharp and edges and businesslike and all that and cold.
There were also, obviously a lot of moments where like she's not, I don't want to say leaning on Joe because I feel like that's an unfair descriptor, but like he's the only one that really knows. And so like, I don't know if I can do this. They're having a lot of those conversations. How much did you feel like she really did need to lean on him or need him in those moments just to psych her back up versus maybe it is more of just like a reminder that they're kind of in this together and that maybe he needs her just as much as anything else because she knows she can expose him if she wants to.
I think it was a build. I think in the beginning she needed him so much because she didn't believe in herself. And then as she began to be successful and live this lie, she didn't need him as much as she thought she did. And then she started to realize that she didn't need him at all and like screw this guy. But it was such a wonderful thing to play, that realization of like, oh God, I still need this horrible person to save me from this and direct me and tell me what to do. And then she totally grew into herself and she was like, screw this guy, and she burns down the whole bookstore. You know what I mean? Like it was such an amazing arc. So it was great. I got to play all of it.
I harped on this with the showrunners, but like the fact that he didn't just die in that fire.
I know.
I mean, less about like the actual plot, but like, is that something that you, when you imagine Maddie and what she wanted out of that experience, is she satisfied? Like he still got his in the end, but it wasn't because of her.
She's very disappointed. I'll tell you right now, she's very disappointed and she wishes he had just gone down in flames and that she was the one to do it. Yes. Yeah, I mean, she's really mad that he's alive still and in prison. Like, I think there's a world in which she could come after him in the movie.
A lot of people feel like jail is the better answer because he's suffering, and then there's the question of how much is he suffering if he's getting all this fan mail.
Yeah.
I do see both sides. I do see both arguments, but I also see, especially like talking to you about Maddie specifically, like what you would hope, or what I feel like the audience would hope for a character like that, is that she can put this behind her, that she can like somehow get past this trauma and then live a nice life with these people that love her and that she loves, because it was messy to get there.
Right.
That's all she really wanted in the end.
It is what she really wanted, but I don't think that she came away from that experience unchanged by him.
No.
Right. I think she was very changed by him. And I think the fact that he's still alive is something that obviously she doesn't want, and it's going to haunt her forever. I think. I mean, like I imagine her becoming obsessed with him a little bit and like maybe trying to, I don't know. I mean, it's over and the show is done or whatever.
You're imagining a more tragic ending for her than I was. So it's interesting to that perspective.
Yeah, I just think that she's not happy. I don't think she's really happy yet. I don't. I think on paper she's like happy, but I think that there's something, I don't know. I don't see her like completely like done with this whole thing, especially because she killed her sister.
Sure. Yeah.
Can you really be like okay and then happy and like with, you know what I mean? Like after you've murdered,
I mean,
someone, and that's not your.
You were like, you were pointing out how terrible her sister was. So I would say that the answer can be yes, because it's not like she murdered an innocent person.
She didn't murder an innocent person, but she took a life away, and that to me, like I just can't wrap my head around what that would do to a human being. So especially one who is like at the end of the day genuinely good and kind. Are they genuinely good and kind if they've killed someone? I mean, I'm putting up an argument for both sides, so, and I don't know if I have the answer to that, you know.
I mean, I don't think you're supposed to have an answer. I think that's kind of the point when they end these shows that way. Like everybody is going to bring to it as an audience member what they think and what they believe. And like, that's kind of why there's all that debate online about not what they deserved or who got a quote happy ending and all that.
Like, I think Maddie's still going to be haunted by Reagan for the rest of her life. She's going to open the closet door and like Reagan pop out. You know what I mean? So how do you deal with that?
Therapy?
Or maybe trying to kill Joe Goldberg.
Sure. Well, you know what? Both maybe work in this world, because I will say the therapists we've met in this world are not so great.
They are not. They are definitely not trusted. No.
All right. Well, I think we're going to be thinking about that for a while. So I don't feel like we're maybe as done with her as we thought. I mean, obviously, we'll see what the showrunners.
Listen, I'm not done in my soul. So listen, it would be an absolute dream come true to do something like with Maddie again. But I mean, who knows? That's like way in my back burner of my brain.